Now that was some kind of win. What's up, everyone, and welcome in to your Celtic source, home of your 2-3 Boston Celtics. And the Celtics, they get their second win in a row, second win of the season, and just a fantastic performance on the defensive end, getting rebounds, getting stops, and then turning that into easy threes on the other end. This was the best game that the Celtics have played this season. Because, we talk about that New Orleans game. I actually thought there were stretches in other games where they played better than they did in the New Orleans game. They just couldn't put it together for a full full 4 quarters. And this was the first game where they just put it from start to end, a fantastic performance through the entire game. They didn't let up. Yes, there was a little bit of a slump per se in that third quarter where the Cleveland Cavaliers found a way to get in and get some offensive rebounds, get some second chance points. But for the most part, the Celtics had built up a pretty solid lead that, once that fourth quarter came around and the Celtics started knocking down some more shots, they were able to close this game out. But I think we have to start with Sam Hauser, because Sam Hauser has been the one consistent throughout the entire first 4 games of the season, and now 5 games of the season. Right? He was on fire in this game. I think he comes out and he hits his first 4 threes in a row in that first quarter to give the 12 points, and then, he continues throughout the game to just knock down clutch threes when the Celtics were in a bit of a hole where they just needed a bucket, and Sam Hauser was able to do just that. I think he finished the game with, how many points? He finished the game with 21 points, and he did that actually off the bench. This was the first game where he didn't start, I believe. Maybe he didn't start against the Pelicans, but in this game, for sure, he didn't start, and he comes off the bench. He finishes the game 7 of 13, so above 50%. He, comes in, and he's big on the defensive end. He gets a couple rebounds, but more importantly, I thought he did a great job of guarding Evan Mobley, Jared Allen when he got switched onto him. I came into this game thinking this was going to be the Celtics' worst game of the season, just because the Cavaliers present those 2 giant centers that I thought were going to give tons of trouble to the Celtics on the glass. And the Celtics did such a great job of just boxing them out, double teaming them on rebounds, and just allowing, Derrick White and Peyton Prichard to come in and grab the rebound, but the centers were doing the harder job of boxing them out, the Cavaliers, centers, right? Derrick White finished this game. How many rebounds did he get in this game? Derrick White finished the game with 5 rebounds. Josh Minott, 14 rebounds. He got the start in this game after a great performance against the Pelicans. And, I'm impressed with Josh Minott. Josh Minott, he didn't play much over in Minnesota for the Wolves. And he's come to this lineup, and he's just been a fantastic addition on just the energy front, bringing effort, diving for balls, and then energy on, some of these transition buckets that he's getting, doing fancy dunks and whatever, hyping up the crowd. He has been a show to watch, which, if it's taking away from what he's doing, the basics, yeah, then you start to, wonder whether he should be doing these stuff. But when he's doing the basics right and he's contributing to wins and then he's also showboating, you got to love that from him, right? 11 points in this game, 14 rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds, 3 steals, a block, 2 assists. He was all over the place tonight, right? He last game, I think in the Pelicans game, he had a plus 42 net rating or something like that. Just a ridiculous stat for only 20 minutes. Only plus 8 in this game, but it was all the little things, the little assists, the deflections, all the little things that, added up to a big win when it's all said and done, right? A 20-point win against the best team, I would say, probably in the Eastern Conference. And yes, they're missing who they missing? What's his name that's out? Darius Garland. That's right. Darius Garland's out. Strus is out. And those are big additions for the Cavs. But the Celtics obviously are missing Jason Tatum and, the 3 guys that left over the summer. So, when it's all said and done, you're missing the same amount of players, really. So I give the Celtics a lot of credit for just, out physically, just, I think it was all physicality in this game is what I'm trying to say. I think the Celtics just wanted the game more. Neemias Queta had a great performance where on a couple of rebounds, he was just throwing his arms right and left, trying to get guys off of him. He picked up 2 fouls doing that. Or, he didn't pick up the fouls, but he was fouled 2 times. And then he was showing it to the ref. He was yelling at the ref. The crowd was into it. Just a fantastic performance to Neemias Queta. And they were talking about this on the broadcast. It's really hard to be the 4th center for, multiple years in a row and then come in and be the starting center, and you're not going to get plays run for you. You don't have great offensive skill set. Your job is really just to clean up the glass and clean up misses when your team takes a shot. And he does that, right? He scores 10 points. Anything you can get from Queta is a bonus. Anything you can get from any center on this team is a bonus, especially with the way the guards were playing tonight. And we'll get to Jaylen Brown in just a second. But Queta just continues to improve game after game, right? It started slow, and you expect that from him, from anyone on this team. But as the games go on, he's gotten better and better at, knowing his position, especially on the defensive end, right? Joe Mazzulla continues to harp on the rebounding thing, and it showed itself a little bit tonight in the third quarter. But for the most part, Neemias Queta was able to see the shot go up, turn around, and position himself in a place where the ball is going to bounce to him, or he's able to guard the man, and a guy like White or Simons is able to, sweep in and grab the rebound. So just his decision on whether he should go for the ball or go for the man continues to improve, which is great to see. And it could be hard because you mess that up in a split second, and it can be a tip out or a putback dunk or just another offensive possession that the Celtics cannot afford to do. Although, when you're having a game like this with steals and deflections and turnovers, especially in that first half, you can afford a couple rebounds here and there. In that third quarter, I think the Cavs, the Celtics and the Cavs both started that quarter pretty cold from 3, and the Cavs quickly switched to a more paint-based offense, and they crashed the boards a lot more than they were in that first half. And it started to show, right? The Celtics, that lead, 17-point lead, cut down to 9. I think it once got to 8 or so. But the Celtics continued to stay with it. They didn't give up, even though the Cavs were going on a bit of a run. Then the Celtics got a little lucky, got some good some threes to fall, and from there, they're able to regain momentum and finish the game out. All right, I think we have to talk about Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, I said for the first couple of games, he looked slow. I was wondering whether that hamstring was bothering him, that knee that he tore wherever it was last season. It felt like he was playing on that injured knee the entire season before we finally realized that it was a partial tear of his meniscus. But Jaylen Brown, after a fantastic game last night, backs it up with a even greater performance in this game. What do you have? 30 points. I think he had 22 points in the first half. He wasn't needed in the second half with Simons and other guys going off. Derrick White picked it up in the second half, although Derrick White continues to be ice cold shooting the ball. We'll talk about Derrick White in just a second. But Jaylen Brown, he looks like he's back to full NBA form Jaylen Brown. The energy, the effort, his, just attack mode. Yes, he had some fantastic pull-up threes, which you love to see from Jaylen Brown, especially because he didn't have a great season last year shooting. And so just his ability to be a clutch three-point shooter, which you're going to need at some points in these games, just the limited offense that you have to have guys that can shoot the ball, especially if your setter position or maybe 4 and 5 spot both are not great shooters. You need your 3 other players to be shooters. 4 of 9 in this game, 12 of 20, so pretty efficient, not super efficient, but he finishes with 30 points, plus 20, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, a block, just 2 turnovers, right? I think that's the biggest thing from Jaylen Brown. When he doesn't turn the ball over, the Celtics play pretty well because he's able to find other guys, get guys involved, and it makes a huge difference in the way this team is able to capitalize on, teams overhelping on him, right? If he tries to dribble through double teams and he loses the ball, then it's a transition the other way and easy points. But when he's able to find a pass out of the double team, and then get the ball back for an open 3 or even an open drive, and, his little sort of mid-range shot that he takes is really unguardable because Jaylen Brown was fantastic at that mid-range shot. It's his go-to shot. And if he's able to knock down threes, he's able to be a playmaker as well, then it's going to open up the entire game for him because teams are going to have to, try and defend every little thing that he does, and it's going to be harder for them to lock in on one specific move. Prichard, he continues to, not shoot it great. Yes, he shot well in the Pelicans game, but back to 1 for 8 in this game, and just overall not great shooting, but he does a lot of other things well. He does the playmaking, the rebounding, the just finding guys. He had a great play where he's able to find, I believe it was Garza for a great, he drove the baseline and then was able to sort of hand it off to Garza for an open dunk. So just doing all the little things that your point guard needs to do, even if you aren't shooting, because, he's going to have to play just because of his playmaking. Even if he's not having a great shooting night, I think the Celtics are going to continue to stick with him. Just because, at any moment he can get hot, but just because you need a stable, ball handler on the court, which, so far it's really been just White and Prichard who have been the main ball handlers. Simons has gotten a little bit of it with the second unit, and Simons is getting better at being off the ball. Sitting in the corner and waiting for shots. When he's gotten the ball, especially with that second unit, he's tried to go a little too ISO, and it hasn't worked out great. So I'd like to see him stay in that off-ball role and, work in his, on the ball with that second unit. And yes, he is, coming off of many seasons in Portland where he is the main guy on the ball, but he's used to taking these, tough shots, contested threes that he makes, but that's not how the Celtics are going to be playing. They want him to be taking open looks and getting other guys involved, and that's going to take time to get used to. But before we wrap it up here, we do have to talk about Derrick White. I'm not sure what's going on with his shooting right now because it's 5 games in and he hasn't had a game yet where he shot well. In this game, he finishes with 19 points, but that's on 5 of 20 field goals, 3 of 12 from 3, the 5 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, a block. But, Derrick White is your number 2 option right now, or as I thought, he was going to be the number 1 option on this team. It's been, I'm sure it's going to come around at some point, but it's just frustrating to see that your number 1 option or number 2 option is not finding it right now, especially when some of these close games to start the season, Sixers game, Pistons game, maybe could have been decided by 1 or 2 made shots from Derrick White. Derrick White, he looks a little flustered being that number 2 option because, teams are sending their second best teams are sending their second best defender at times, or even their best defender. And Derrick White's not used to being guarded like that. He's used to having a weaker defender with Tatum and Brown getting most of that pressure and him just feeding off of the double teams. And now that he's being double teamed, it's taking him a while to find other guys. And he's sort of taking these deep threes that the Celtics made a lot of them tonight, but I want to see them get a little closer to the basket because, yes, they can make threes, but the farther out you go, the harder it's going to get, right? And Derrick White trying to beat these double teams by taking these threes all the way out by the logo, it's just not working out for him. But, we'll wrap it up here. Follow on social media. We will be back Friday night, Halloween night after the Celtics play. That'll probably be a later episode. It probably won't be right after the game. We'll do it more closer to, 11 or so, probably. So probably like an hour or so later than normal. And then right back at it the next night, we have the Rockets coming to town. That'll be another tough game. Sixers are undefeated right now, so that's going to be a tough game on Friday. And then, obviously, we will do a podcast episode on Sunday night before Monday's game. I'm not quite sure who they're playing, but you know the drill. We'll be live after the game, post-game show. Follow on social media. Check out the podcast episodes. If you can't watch it live on YouTube, you can listen to it, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, go Celtics.
Brown lets it fly. Bottom, a 3. From behind, knocking it away. Tatum passes in. Prichard got it back inside.